I still remember the exact moment everything changed, the soft brush of a pen against my skin, the way she smiled like she knew something I didn't, and the quiet sentence that echoed in my mind long after she left, "Call me if you ever feel alone." At the time, I thought it was just a friendly gesture. Just my mom's friend being kind. I was wrong. It started on a normal Thursday afternoon. School had ended early, and I dragged my feet all the way home, kicking pebbles along the pavement like they'd somehow solve the mess inside my head. I was 16, stuck somewhere between being a kid and being someone I didn't quite recognize yet. Everything felt heavier than it should, friends drifting away, expectations growing louder, and a constant feeling that I was somehow falling behind in a race no one had explained to me. When I opened the front door, I expected silence. Mom usually worked late, and the house often felt like a quiet museum of routines we no longer shared. But that day, laughter greeted me instead. Warm, genuine laughter. I stepped inside, confused, and found my mom in the kitchen with someone I didn't recognize at first. She turned when she saw me, her eyes lighting up. "Oliver, you're home early," she said. The woman beside her turned too, smiling in a way that felt steady. Like she had all the time in the world. "This must be Oliver," she said. "I've heard so much about you." Her name was Margaret Hale, though she insisted I call her Maggie. She was one of my mom's old friends from years ago, someone I'd apparently met when I was very young but had no memory of now. She had kind eyes, the sort that didn't just look at you but seemed to understand you before you even spoke. "Nice to meet you," I mumbled, shrugging off my bag. "Likewise," she said, her tone soft but sincere. There was something different about her presence. Not loud, not overwhelming, just calm. The kind of calm that made you feel like you didn't have to pretend. Mom asked about my day, and I gave my usual half answers. "Fine. Same as always. Nothing much." I was used to conversations that skimmed the surface. But Maggie didn't interrupt. She didn't push. She just listened. After a while, Mom stepped out to take a call, leaving the two of us alone in the kitchen. I busied myself pouring a glass of water, hoping to avoid awkward small talk. "You don't have to pretend with me, you know," Maggie said gently. I froze, the glass halfway to my lips. "I wasn't pretending," I said quickly. She smiled, not arguing. "All right," she said. "But if you ever feel like talking, I'm a very good listener." I didn't respond. I wasn't used to people saying things like that without expecting something in return. Still, something about her words stayed with me. Over the next hour, we talked in bits and pieces. Nothing deep at first: school, hobbies, what music I liked. But she asked questions that felt different. Not like she was ticking boxes, but like she genuinely cared about the answers. And without realizing it, I started opening up. Just a little. By the time Mom came back, I'd said more than I usually did in an entire week. When Maggie finally stood to leave, she picked up her bag, then paused as if remembering something. "Oliver," she said, walking back toward me. I looked up. She took a pen from her purse, gently took my hand, and wrote something on the back of it. Her touch was light, respectful, nothing uncomfortable, nothing strange. Just careful. "There," she said, stepping back. I looked down at my hand. A phone number. "If you ever feel alone," she said softly, "call me. Even if it's late. Even if you don't know what to say." I blinked, caught off guard. "Why?" She tilted her head slightly, her smile warm. "Because sometimes we all need someone who's just there." I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded. That night, I stared at the number on my hand longer than I wanted to admit. I even considered washing it off, brushing it away like it didn't matter. But I didn't. Days passed. Then weeks. Life continued the same way it always had, quiet dinners, distant conversations, the steady hum of things left unsaid. At school, everything felt louder somehow. Expectations, comparisons, invisible pressures that no one talked about but everyone felt. I smiled when I needed to. I laughed when it was expected. But inside, something felt off. Like I was slowly disappearing. One evening, after a particularly long day, I sat alone in my room staring at nothing. My phone buzzed with messages I didn't feel like answering. My mind replayed conversations I wished had gone differently. And for the first time in a long while, I felt truly alone. Not physically, but deeply. That's when I noticed it again. Faint, but still there. The number on my hand. I had traced over it once or twice in the days after she wrote it, almost without thinking. Now it was faded, but readable. I stared at it. My heart pounded for no clear reason. It felt silly. Calling someone I barely knew? What would I even say? But then I remembered her words. Even if you don't know what to say. Before I could overthink it, I picked up my phone and dialed. It rang once. Twice. 3 times. Hello? Her voice came through, calm and familiar. I froze. Oliver, she said gently, as if she somehow knew it was me. Yeah, it's me, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm glad you called, she said. That was it. No questions. No pressure. Just, glad. We talked for nearly an hour that night. Or maybe longer, I lost track of time. At first, I stumbled over my words, unsure of where to begin. But she never rushed me. She didn't interrupt. She didn't try to fix everything. She just listened. And somehow, that made all the difference. Over the next few weeks, those calls became something I looked forward to. Not every day, not even regularly, but whenever things felt too heavy, I knew there was someone I could reach out to. Someone who wouldn't judge. Someone who wouldn't dismiss what I felt as just a phase. One evening, I finally asked the question that had been sitting quietly in the back of my mind. Why did you give me your number that day? I asked. There was a small pause on the other end. Because I saw something in you, she said. What do you mean? I saw someone trying very hard to hold everything together, she said softly. And I remembered what that felt like. Her words settled over me like a quiet truth I hadn't been ready to admit. I just didn't want you to feel like you had to do it alone, she added. That night, something shifted. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But enough. I started noticing things I hadn't before. The way Mom looked at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. The small efforts she made that I'd brushed off as routine. The quiet love that had always been there, even when we didn't talk about it. One evening, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, going through old photos. Hey, I said, sitting down across from her. She looked up, surprised. Hey. We sat in silence for a moment. Then, for the first time in a long while, I spoke. Do you ever feel like you don't know how to say things? I asked. Her expression softened. All the time, she said. We talked for hours that night. Really talked. About everything. About how things had changed after Dad left. About the ways we'd both tried to stay strong for each other without realizing we were building walls instead. About how sometimes love doesn't disappear, it just gets quiet. And in that quiet, we forget how to hear it. Things didn't magically become perfect after that. But they became real. And that was enough. Months later, I found myself standing outside Maggie's house for the first time. She'd invited both Mom and me over for dinner, and I was strangely nervous. When she opened the door, her smile was just as warm as I remembered. Oliver, she said, like she was greeting an old friend. "Hi," I said, smiling back. That night, as we sat around the table, something felt different. Not forced. Not awkward. Just easy. At one point, Mom excused herself to take a call, leaving me and Maggie alone again, just like the first day we met. "Do you remember what you thought when I wrote my number on your hand?" she asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. I laughed lightly. "I thought it was kind of weird." She smiled. "Fair enough. But also," I paused. "I think part of me was hoping I'd need it." Her expression softened. "And I'm really glad I did," I added. She nodded gently. "Me too." I looked down at my hands, now clean, no trace of ink left. But I didn't need it anymore. Because the number wasn't just written on my skin. It had become something more. A reminder. That sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. That being just friendly can mean showing up when someone needs it most. And that no matter how alone you feel, there's always someone willing to listen, if you're brave enough to reach out. As we finished dinner that night, laughter filling the room, I realized something simple but powerful. I wasn't the same person who had walked through the door that Thursday afternoon months ago. I was stronger. Not because everything was perfect. But because I wasn't carrying it all alone anymore. And sometimes, that's the greatest change of all.